If you thought the Olympic torch only travels to stadiums, think again. Sometimes it ends up in the House of Representatives. Welcome back to Beyond the Bill Number, the podcast where we dig into the laws shaping the country one bill at a time. I'm Stephen, and today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. The Olympics. Not the athletes themselves, but some legislation around them. From recognising historic victories to supporting athletes' education and planning future games, Congress has its own way of getting into the Olympic spirit. So Sarah, when I think of the Olympics, I always think of the Summer Olympics. In fact, only the other day you brought up the Olympics are happening, and I literally had absolutely no idea they were on. And now that they're actually, well underway, I still have barely any idea. I mean, they don't even get shown on the TV over here very much. You have to dig around to try and find them. I mean, the BBC covers them, but you really have to dig into it. And it's certainly not in the news or a sort of popular conversation. In fact, the only story that I really heard, which I think was about a British athlete, was he wrote "fuck ice" in the snow with urine,
Oh
which
my
was
gosh,
the
yes.
interesting bit about it.
That's Gus
And
Kentworthy, and I grew up skiing with him. I have known
did
Gus
you?
since I was 10 years old.
Excellent.
He's
I thought
actually
that
from
was
Colorado.
a ballsy move. Ah,
Yes,
excellent. There
yes.
you
His
go.
his
There
mom
you
is
go. So that's
British,
the only
so
story I've heard. Okay. All right.
that is so funny.
So
I will
yes,
have to tell him that.
it's the only thing
Uh,
that made the news here. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
Uh,
I wrote this post because I wanted an excuse to talk about the Olympics after you told me that you weren't even thinking about the Winter Olympics because that is
it's true.
my Olympics. Like, I always loved the Summer Games, and I saw a very funny tweet the other day that I think summarizes how I feel between the Winter and Summer Games, which is essentially the Summer Games is so cool. If I tried that, I would just absolutely get creamed. It's so amazing, like,
Mm.
what the human body can be pushed to do. And then the Winter Games is, oh my God, I would literally die if I attempted that. The human body absolutely shouldn't be pushed to do
Yeah, I
this.
really should.
And I just love the Winter Games. I know Gus. I have a friend that I came up skiing moguls with who is in the Olympic men's mogul finals. And one of my other really good friend's husbands is one of the coaches for the male snowboard halfpipe. So not only do I love all these sports and I think they're really cool and awesome and they're fun, but I have a lot of personal connections. Whereas the Summer Games, I am
Phenomenal.
not personally friends with anybody who has the craziest amount of athletic talent that I've ever seen in my life. I'm more friends with the crazy people that want to like strap blades to their feet and jump off of cliffs. So, you know,
Which is nuts. It is dangerous. So if you speak to anybody my age about the Winter Olympics, then instantly they'll say Eddie the Eagle, because Eddie the Eagle is like the only sort of British Olympian who anybody will remember for the Winter Games. And obviously he was super famous for being terrible at his sport and coming last because he was like really unathletic. He had like loads of health
oh
problems
my
when he was a child,
gosh.
his legs and things. So he couldn't really do very much, but he was desperate to become an Olympian. And he found this loophole in the rules that basically said that if you qualified like best in your country, then you could qualify for the Olympics. It didn't matter actually how good you were. And because we didn't have anybody doing ski jumping in
Gosh.
England, it was actually quite easy to qualify. Right? And so he did. So he qualified with a time that was like many, many meters shorter of anybody else in the world who qualified because he was terrible at it. But he's such an inspirational story because he worked really, really hard at it. He trained really hard. He got
Oh.
no support, just ridicule, had no sponsors, like just didn't even have the right gear and the clothes or anything. And he was also super clumsy. So really, ski jumping is not the sport to do if you're super jumping. So he was always getting hurt. He was always breaking bones, and I mean these horrific crashes and things. But he turns up to the Olympics and instantly became a hero of the whole Olympic Games. He was
Oh.
like the big name in Olympic Games. Everybody loved him because he was such a nice guy. And the British Olympic Committee were absolutely furious about it because he didn't have they'd refused to give him any sponsorship or anything. So obviously he was just on all the news things, didn't have any of the sponsors or all the things, so it was really affecting their money and casting shade for all the other Olympians who were there. And then he made this massive career afterwards. Obviously, he came last. And by a long way. But then they changed the rules so he couldn't qualify again, which is like it really mortified him. So he never
Wow.
qualified for another. again because they said no, actually you got to be quite good at your sport to qualify. But he then made an entire career out of this. He was the '80s, so he made singles and went on all the chat shows and just became this celebrity for being this like complete
For
klutz
being
because he
Eddie
was
the
just such a
Eagle.
nice guy. It's a
Ugh,
great story, and Eddie the great story. I saw an article about him the other day because it's the Olympics, so
yeah.
someone went out and interviewed him, and he's working like I think just doing building work now, and doing the occasion like he does panto because everyone remembers him, so he can help in panto and does the occasional speech and things like that. But he says he reckons that he could be as good as he ever was with a bit of training, even though he's like in his 60s now. So everyone
Oh
goes,
boy.
"Yeah, you probably could," because let's face it, you weren't very good back then either. And I think everyone's going, no, do not get yourself back on the skis, Eddie. You'll kill yourself. You
Oh
almost did
my
back then.
gosh. Well, that sport is one of the sports where you just watch it and you're like, what possesses a person
I
to
know,
do
I know.
this? Like, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the Winter Olympics is I feel like there's a lot of drama that's actually really funny. Was Eddie the Eagle getting interviewed about the Norwegian ski jumpers injecting their penises with hyaluronic
Yeah, I know. Oh
acid
my God.
to make their
So weird.
suits bigger? Like,
I
and like
know.
there was a guy that got third in the biathlon in Norwegian, and he
Uh,
admitted that he cheated on his girlfriend.
yeah,
And
yeah, there's some
like,
good stories. Yeah.
it's so
I
funny.
did
I
read
love
about the
it.
penis thing. And I thought that's crazy because I thought
I
it
was
was just,
obsessed with
so
that
that they
story.
looked better in their suits or whatever. But then I saw an analysis of how
Yeah,
much extra distance you can get by
yeah,
just having your suit slightly bigger. And it's
yeah.
crazy because it's a
It's
lot of
crazy.
distance.
It's crazy. Well, one of my good friends who did it, she lives in Steamboat, which is Steamboat has the most Olympians of anywhere in the world in the Winter Olympics. So that's my
Wow.
that's my
That's
state.
it.
Yeah. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Coloradans. Also, like Colorado is like a very heavy participant in the Winter Games, I will say.
I can
But
imagine for very obvious reasons. Yeah.
yeah,
Get a
her
lot of snow up there.
well, yeah, her neighbor was interviewed about this whole suit injection situation, and he was saying that you
Hmm.
get measured in a speedo, so you'd think it'd be pretty obvious if people were doing this, but I guess it was.
Yeah,
People
but
just
would you
think the
comment
Norwegians
on
are
it? Would
hung.
you say, yeah, yeah, exactly? Would you go, that's quite large. Are you sure you haven't been injecting that with acid? It's like not the kind of question you'd ask, would it?
Well, it's not a normal thing to do.
No. I mean,
Like,
that's all sorts of questions. It's like, is that acid or are you just pleased to see me? I mean, it's,
yes, yes.
you
Yeah, there's more equipment doping in the Winter Games, whereas in the Summer Games, there's more like drug
yeah, yeah,
doping and
the
things
physical
like that.
doping.
So
Yeah.
it is interesting. And I think it's such an interesting difference in the games where the Summer Games is truly like how far can you push a human body? And the Winter Games is like how far can you push the like mentality of a crazy person to hone the craziest skill to the most
Yeah.
amazing amount that you're in the Olympics. That is absolutely not something that you should be doing. When I was a mogul skier, I always thought it was so funny. Mogul skiing is one of the hardest disciplines of all types of professional skiing,
I can
and
imagine.
you don't get paid any money if you're good at it. Like there's no fanfare. Like if you're a really good downhill racer, you can get millions
Mm,
of dollars in sponsorships.
mm,
Like people fan over you, you win a lot of money. For mogul skiing, you make no money if you are very good at it.
mm.
And it is like very hard. Like it is definitely, in my opinion, the hardest discipline. I used to ski race, so I think I can say that. But it's so funny. People ski jumping, curlers. They were saying the curlers, oh, this guy works at a Wisconsin travel agency during the day and then, spends his nights curling.
Yeah.
It's just it's a really funny type of games where
Mm,
I also feel like so many people are doing it for the love of the sport and not
yeah.
necessarily these amazing athletes that are like
Yeah.
really pushing themselves to the absolute limits of what a human can do.
It's true,
But
and there's a lot of people who are super enthusiastic about winter sports in the UK.
yes,
So yeah,
yeah,
I think we invented
yes,
skiing. I said to recall this that we invented skiing, quite possibly. But the point is, we don't have very much snow, so you can't
no,
just do it casually. You have to basically have a lot of money. So it's a
yes,
quite a rich person
yes.
sort of skiing is
It's a
skiing.
very
If someone says I
elite.
went skiing,
Yeah.
they're quite rich. Yeah, it's quite elite,
Yes. Yes.
which makes it difficult. There's a very small number of people who can actually do it, and that's why we struggle obviously to generate people who are very good at the
Yeah.
sports enough to get there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's one of the things that I think has been actually getting talked about a lot this
Mm.
Olympics is just how elite so much of these winter sports are and how
Yeah,
expensive it
they
is.
really are.
Like somebody was saying, how does
Mm.
Chile only have 3 people? They have the Andes Mountains, and it's
I
like,
know. I, I'm amazed there are that many.
Yeah, I mean, well, one, it's really expensive to go to the Olympics, and two, it's really expensive
Yeah.
to hone this craft to the point where you can be at the Olympics
Mm,
because apparently Mr. Eagle messed it up for people, and they have to actually
he
be,
did.
the 20 best in the
He
world,
did.
not just the first best at your country. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a bit of a shame, really, because it's quite nice to
yeah,
have underdogs, isn't it? It's
yeah.
it's nice to
And
have a
these
team
kinds of
turn up who
stories.
really are
I love
different.
the Olympic
Yeah.
stories. I just cry all the
Yeah.
time. I love the coverage. The US coverage is
Mm,
obviously all about the US people, but they just have the
mm,
best stories. And you just think of people like there was a guy on the figure skating team who both his parents died in that Washington, D.C. plane crash. And
oh.
it was like he put up that
Mm,
it was for him and his parents, and I was sitting there just bawling
mm.
my eyes out, and just like a little 18-year-old kid, like it's so cute. I love the Olympics. So it's also just been so interesting this year because Gus went viral for the fuck ice in the pee thing, and then he
Mm,
did a video afterwards, and he was like, "Whoa, like this." Picture I posted of me riding fuck ice with my pee in the snow like went really viral, and like let me address this because he's from Telluride, Colorado, and so he
mm,
skied I think one or two Olympics for the U.S. and then he switched to Britain to honor his mom, and
mm.
he had just a really wonderful speech about how he is proud to be an American and he's not proud of
Mhm.
what is going on right now. And that doesn't mean that
Yep.
he's not proud of his American side or he doesn't love his country. He loves what his country could be and like all this stuff. And it's just really
Mm.
interesting to hear these athletes talking about this, especially with everything that's going on in the US right now. And it's been really inspiring. And
It
I love
is,
the
and
Olympics
it's
so much. And yeah,
depressing how like Republicans have then piled on, which is very
yeah,
predictable. But also,
yeah,
it's like just for once, just shut the fuck up. Just for once, let let
yeah,
people enjoy the sport and let people have their political views. They're not
right,
un-American because they disagree with Trump. It's like they're literally there representing their country. Leave them
right,
alone.
right.
But one
Right.
final point on Gus, where any man who saw that picture, when they looked at it, our first thought was, of course, wow, his control is quite amazing. How did he manage to get the letters like that? That's impressive. So, if there was an Olympic sport in writing in the P, then he would definitely be a gold medalist. So, if you could mention that too, very impressive.
You know what? I'll let him know that he needs to lobby for that in the next games.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay then, right. So let's get into this. As I say, a little bit of a self-indulgent post on your part, but I think we can allow you this. There's definitely legislation around the Olympics. Okay, so the Olympics are medals, podiums, and cheers, but you're telling me that there's also a legislative angle that perhaps I've been missing.
Yes, on top of respect for the Winter Games, we also have just let all of this Olympic legislation under our radar. And I mean,
Hmm.
lawmakers are not necessarily breaking the world records on the ice track or even on the House track of actually being able to pass bills, but they are creating the official record of achievement, supporting athletes off the field, and even laying groundwork for cities that might host the games in the future. And so there's a lot of really interesting pieces of legislation here that we can kind of go through. And we can see all of these bills on Bill Track 50. I actually just searched for the word Olympics and was able to kind of peruse through. I used our similar bills feature to find some of the similar bills of
Mm.
these athletes that are getting codified in legislation to recognize them. But it was really cool to be able to see how much is actually going on around the Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of Bill Track 50, isn't it? Okay. So let's start with athlete support then. The New York law that helps athletes pursue education while training.
Right. So that is New York A761, which was passed at the end of 2025, so a very recent bill. But it allows out of state Olympic athletes who are training in New York to pay in state tuition at the State University of New York and the City University of New York schools. And the key is that the athletes must be enrolled in an elite program that is approved by the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee, which ties the policy directly to the performance of the opportunity. So it's a really clever way to reduce barriers off the field, making sure that athletes can also pursue an education while they're chasing these medals.
Excellent. So that's really smart, really. So Congress is also memorializing historical achievements, right? Like the Miracle on Ice.
Oh, yes, exactly. The hockey is back. We have have the NHL back in the Olympics, and this year is going to be some really great hockey. So if you don't watch all of the Olympics, definitely make sure to tune into the gold medal match, because Team Canada is the most stacked team I've ever seen. The amount of amazing hockey players that are from Canada, it's like whoever is in it, I think it might be the U.S. in the final game, is just going to get their booties handed to them. So
You think?
I recommend that.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of Avalanche players on the Canadian team. So, but anyways, yeah. There's one bill that really goes into the Miracle on Ice, and that's the Miracle on Ice Congressional Gold Medal Act. So this awards the Congressional Gold Medal to the 1980 U.S. men's team. And this was more than just about hockey back then, and it was more than just winning gold, which, you know, we all love to win. It was this Cold War cultural moment. And passing this resolution not only honors these athletes, but it also really officially recognizes their place in history, ensuring that the story is preserved for future generations. And it's interesting, I wonder if this year, if Canada beats the US, if it might seem a little bit like this because of what's going on. I'm interested to see if there's kind of a parallel there, but we'll see.
It's true. There's been some smack talk, and didn't President Trump say something about if Canadians won't be allowed to play ice hockey unless they agree to his tariffs?
Apparently, she doesn't like hockey, is in Trump's opinion, which I'm not sure if I've ever heard if he had an opinion on it, but.
Crazy. Okay, well, that's just one example then. So what about other athletes getting resolutions?
Yeah, so there's actually quite a few. This was one of the bigger surprises when I was checking out Bill Track 50, that Congress passes a lot of ceremonial bills. We talked about that earlier this year. They love a ceremonial bill. They're mostly resolutions, and they can be recognizing the Great American Bison, or they can be recognizing all these amazing athletes that come out of the States. And most of these recognitions are people who not only are amazing athletes and maybe won the Olympics or awesome WNBA players, but they also give back more to their community. So the first is in Colorado. There is a joint resolution that's honoring the athletes of the games in 2026 Winter Games, which, like I said, so many athletes are from Colorado this year. It's really cool. Like, every single time I'm watching any of the games, it's like, oh, that person is from like 20 minutes where I grew up or 20 minutes where I live now. Like, it's really cool. So it's, you know, it's recognizing their training, their coaches, their families, their local communities. There's a really big culture here around these winter sports. So that's awesome. And then Illinois was just popping off resolutions for all of these different athletes that were there. So they had ILHR 180, which recognized Olivia Smoliga, a two-time Olympic swimmer, not only for her medals, but for her mentorship through the In-Depth Swim Academy. Then we had Talia Halverson, who was a young boxer who was recognized early in her career for her victories, and then how she also gave back. And then we had Michael K. or Mike Durkin with HR 515, who was honored for his Olympic career and professional accomplishments as a lawyer. Then we had Nebraska popping in there with Walter Thane Baker with his multiple medals in 1952 and 1956, recognized for his decades of mentorship on the track and field side of the house. And then we had Jim Thorpe in Pennsylvania with HR 19 celebrating his 1912 Olympic gold medals in the pentathlon and decathlon and his contributions to professional football. And then we have South Carolina recognizing my girl Asia Wilson with HR 4878, and she is an absolute all-star in the WNBA, Olympic gold medalist, and honored for her scoring records and mentorship work. Also, she makes the coolest pink shoes, and I love watching little girls get these shoes and be really excited about them because they just love her so much, and it's so cool. And then finally, we have Peter Westbrook, who was an Olympic fencing bronze medalist, and he was recognized all the way at the House of Representatives with Resolution 758 for founding the Peter Westbrook Foundation, which provides fencing instruction, academic support, and mentorship for underserved youth.
Wow, I mean, that is a lot of shout outs to past Olympic athletes there. I'm sure the Bison appreciate the company. So, I mean, I know we do take the mickey a lot of Congress whenever passing any bills and saying, oh, all they pass is these kind of resolutions. But they are valuable. It is absolutely worth spending a little bit of time in Congress to honor sort of great people like this. So excellent.
Yes, it really is. And each one of these bills shows that Congress isn't just about the medals, but they're just about recognizing really awesome citizens and things that they're doing. And yeah, it's really great to go win a medal for your country. And sometimes it might be as impactful as the Miracle on Ice. But other times people go on to live really full lives where they're really giving back to this country and doing things like that. And I just love seeing this type of recognition. And it's a different way to really recognize what makes Americans Americans.
So we've got recognition and sport for athletes, but what about the future games? So hosting the Olympics, as we know, is a massive political and economic issue. There's a lot of cities that actually just simply don't want to do it because it's too much of a hassle. But, you know, in England, we were always quite suspicious when we got the Olympics, the Summer Olympics in 2012. But absolutely the entire country came behind it. We all loved it. Everyone thought it was just the best year ever because we had the Olympics. So definitely worth doing, even if it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, there are several bills from the national level to the state level that talk about this. There's a couple federal bills that address operational and ceremonial aspects to the Olympics. First, let's look at H.R. 4382, which authorizes the U.S. Treasury to mint commemorative coins for the 2028 LA Summer Olympics and 2034 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake. It's kind of crazy that they're giving us so many Olympics and a 6-year span, but okay. And these coins, surcharges, are going to be directed to the Olympic and Paralympic organizing committees, and the legislation is structured in a way to avoid a net cost to the government while building these coins out.
Well, I mean, I think it's absolutely right that America should get all of these. I mean, you've got all the money in the world, richest country in the world. You absolutely should be hosting the Olympics because, again, America will put on a fantastic show because the Olympics are so big in America as well. Much better than doing it in a country where it's not quite so big. But I do find it odd that we're still minting commemorative coins for things. I mean, it's quite nice, but same time, I mean, people don't even use coins anymore. You know, maybe it should, I don't know, be a commemorative card or something. That makes more sense. But anyway, I'll have to see if I can get my hands on some of them. So it is good to try and fund a bit of the massive cost of the Olympics, and I quite like this aspirational thing saying, "Oh, it's not going to cost us any money." Yes, it will. Every city that hosts the Olympics always says, "We're going to make it pay. It's going to be cost neutral. In fact, we're going to make money out of it," and it never happens. But good luck. Keep trying.
Yes, that is all too true. And I mean, a lot of that does happen for things like the second bill that we'll talk about talks about, which is the Transportation Assistance and World Cup Cities Act. So this bill proposes federal grants to assist host cities with transportation planning and infrastructure improvements, plus federal studies on the economic impacts of hosting. So I'm worried that, the 2028 and 2036 might be our last ones if we have enough reports on how expensive it might be.
It is. It's crazy. And states have to examine their involvement if they want to host too as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we have two bills that we can talk about today. So some states are really interested in hosting future Olympic Games. We have Ohio H.R. 101, which endorses Cleveland's bid to host the 2030 Special Olympic USA Games, which this focuses on the impact of athletes with intellectual disabilities and the city's preparedness to actually be able to host those athletes and make sure that they can get around. And then we have Vermont H367, which establishes a Vermont Olympics Task Force. And this is to study the feasibility of hosting under the IOC guidelines, including the sustainability, housing, transportation, economic effects. It's currently being referred to the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. Surprise, surprise. But it is really interesting thinking about these things. As a Coloradan, I've always been like, why aren't we hosting the Olympic Games? We have, especially the Winter Games, we have all of these mountains. We could have all these people here.
All infrastructure.
Yes, I mean, we have all the ice rinks. I don't even know if we need to build new stuff. It's interesting because we did a report, and I think it was under Governor Polis. I think it was when he first started, but it was like, oh my God, the amount of money that we would waste on this. And it's the housing to actually house all the Olympians and then to house all the people coming in. They just couldn't figure out how to build housing in a way that afterwards could be usable. And so it wasn't just taking it down or other things like that. So it is a really interesting thing where having the Olympics isn't just about being in the spotlight for the 2 weeks and, kind of the lead up for it. It's a long-term situation about planning and ensuring these communities are actually ready to host this large event at scale with all these people.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what they did in London for 2012 was they actually said, well, we could host it in an already sort of glitzy area of London, but instead we'll go to Shoreditch, which was a super rundown sort of ex-industrial area with just all these decaying factories and things. And so they took this section of London and just completely renovated it. So when they put all the housing up, they built loads of other
Wow.
housing and flats as well. So they turned it into one of the most desirable areas of London. And obviously London's super
Wow.
expensive. So they made a load of money then from like selling all these houses that had been built and things. So that, I mean, that's the way you do it,
Wow.
rather
That's
than
smart.
saying, let's just add on to here. Let's actually use it as an excuse to renovate some area that's run down, and
I
then
like that.
that way you can do it. But even so, they still lost loads of money because
Mm.
it's
It's
you do
expensive.
it's
Yeah.
just expensive. Yeah. Okay, well, it's fascinating to see this legislation that covers everything from athlete support to long-term city planning. And Congress really does get into the Olympic spirit in its own way, and it's just a pity that a few other Republicans in particular couldn't perhaps do the same
Yes, we're seeing that this year, but I do think it is part of the Winter Games. A lot of people who love the Winter Games are definitely not
thing.
climate change deniers because they want snow. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, these bills, whether they were ceremonial or supportive or operational, they really demonstrate that the Olympics are woven into the US culture and policy, and they show our values as Americans of honoring achievement and
They do.
investing in opportunity and, trying to prepare our communities to host these big world stage events.
Absolutely. So the next time we cheer for an athlete, we can also cheer for the lawmakers, making sure their stories, training, and cities are supported. And that's Olympic spirit in legislative form.
Woohoo, absolutely. And, whether it's Miracle on Ice or Miracle on Ice 2026 edition we might see in the coming weeks,
Mm.
mentoring programs, or, these future hosting plans, these laws show that sport isn't just entertainment and it really goes beyond just us enjoying our TV or even getting to see it in person. It's part of national identity, history, and civic planning.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for today's episode of Beyond the Bill Number. So don't forget to check out Bill Track 50 to follow the bills we talked about and explore the legislative side of the Olympics yourself.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep us posted on which events you are mastering from the comfort of your couch.
Ah, yes. Couch, cocoa, and curling commentary. A Winter Games trifecta.
Too true.